The rust-tinted wind howled through the skeletal remains of the Cogsworth Station Observatory, carrying with it the taint of something ancient and unfathomable. Dr. Elise Conrad tightened her grip on the cracked metal railing, staring in disbelief at the gaping chasm where the research dome once stood. It hadn't been more than an hour since the tremor fractured the planet's surface, but already the echoes of that rupture reverberated through her bones. She inhaled, fighting the lurching vertigo that threatened to pull her to her knees. The sky above Helion Prime remained deceptively serene, its two blood-red moons casting a pallid light across the scarred plateau. It was as if the world itself mourned the loss of Cogsworth, its premier research facility. And as its last surviving specialist in exoplanetary geology, Elise knew she was alone. The night had begun with routine seismic readings, faint tremors that suggested tectonic drift. Nothing more. But then the ground convulsed, unleashing a fissure that carved through bedrock and steel alike, swallowing the dome and everyone within. Elise's heart had pounded against her ribs as she ran, her path illuminated by sparks and collapsing conduits. Now, standing at the edge, she could see the cavernous maw opening into blackness. A soft clicking sound echoed from below. Elise froze. The chasm was too deep for daylight to reach its depths, yet something bright glinted far beneath, an unearthly luminescence, pulsing in slow, deliberate rhythms. She frowned. No mineral on record emitted such light, not even the famed Helion crystals, known for their eerie glow. This was different, alive. Her communicator crackled. Dr. Conrad, came the strained voice of Captain Renzo Kalick, her former colleague. We lost visual contact with you after the collapse. Are you? Elise cut him off. Captain, you need to evacuate everyone. That fissure, it's not just geological. There's... A shrill howl of metal shearing cut the line. Elise's blood ran cold. High above, the jagged fragments of Cogsworth's central antenna swayed precariously, casting shifting shadows across the wreckage. And then she saw them, slender, elongated tendrils amidst seeping from the chasm's depths, snaking toward her. No, this was impossible. She stumbled backward as the tendrils writhed in midair, coalescing into shapes. Tendrils no more, but writhing bodies hairless and pale, their limbs jointed at impossible angles. Eyes like molten silver swiveled, fixing on her. A chorus of inhuman clicking filled her ears, as if the very stones murmured in conspiratorial delight. She fumbled for her sidearm. Two creatures lunged in unison, their bodies folding like origami. She fired. The shot rang hollow against the obsidian darkness. The bullet passed through the nearest apparition, dissipating into motes of light that winked out. The beasts kept coming. With a scream, Elise turned and fled along the shattered walkway. Each step threatened to send her plummeting into the abyss, but she forced herself onward, adrenaline blinding her fear. Behind her, the clicking grew louder, multiplied by dozens and hundreds. The creatures poured from the fissure, thin as smoke, yet solid enough to snatch at her feet. She reached the access tunnel, half collapsed, yet still navigable. Pressing her back against the bulkhead, she tuned the intercom. Bases Alpha and Beta. Do you copy? The fissures opened something alive and hungry. Silence answered her. The flickering lights overhead sputtered, casting long, dancing shadows. Elise swallowed. Her only hope lay in an emergency elevator to the lower levels, where the core reactor elevator should still function. She braced herself and sprinted. The beast pursued, slipping through cracks in the walkway like water, seeping through broken pipes. Elise could hear their soft, wet hiss, the sound of primordial hunger. She leapt into the shaft and slammed the hatch shut. Her hand shook as she activated the override. The hatch groaned, then latched with a resonant click. In the dim red glow of the emergency lights, Elise slid to the floor, pressing her ears against the hatch. The clicking continued outside, accompanied by faint thuds against the walls. She swallowed bile, fighting back panic. The creatures had not fazed by her weaponry. They might not even possess flesh and bone. Her mind raced back to the Dorval expedition logs, fragments of archaic alien lore discovered in a derelict deep space probe, references to children of the rift, ethereal entities that slumber beneath the crust of worlds, feeding on the fear and life force of any who disturbed their domain. Dismissed as myth by most, but now, in the abyss beneath her, their glow pulsed with merciless intent. The elevator jolted, then began its descent with a low hum. Elise exhaled, but the relief was fleeting. The elevator shaft below her was breached. She heard the clatter of debris, and then a scraping sound like nails drawn across steel. Something tapped against the hatch. Elise curled into a ball. "Please," she whispered. "Please, just give me a moment." The tapping paused. Then a breath, soft, hollow, as if the hatch exhaled. Elise stilled her heartbeat, feeling it thud against her collarbone. A voice, layered and echoing, spoke from the darkness beyond. "Why do you tremble, surface dweller?" Elise's voice caught. "W's were you? We are the lost ones, the first children of stone and light," it rasped. "You have rent our slumber, awakened us from eons of dreaming." She swallowed. I'm sorry. We did not know." "Indeed." The voice softened like wind through reeds. "Ignorance is no shield against our hunger." The hatch shuddered. Elise backed away. "No, wait. There must be a way to appease you." A pause. Then the elevator jolted to a halt. The indicator light above the door blinked erratically. A hiss of steam leaked through vents as the creatures pulled shadows beneath the hatch. The overhead speaker crackled. "Abandon Sanctions Protocol," the disembodied voice intoned. "Release you to us." Elise's mind raced. Sanctions Protocol. Only one way to stop the chain reaction. Sacrificial containment. If she opened a hatch and stepped into the abyssal light, maybe she could trigger the emergency core collapse, sealing the rift with a miniature implosion. She could draw the creatures into the reactor's blast, trapping them in a singularity of their own making. She bolted to the panel. Her gloved fingers trembled as she entered override codes. Sirens wailed. The elevator doors hissed open halfway, revealing tendrils of glowing smoke. She glimpsed dozens of creatures, their silver eyes shimmering. They reached toward her. Elise slammed her gut against the control console. Override accepted. Initiating containment breach. A final siren shrieked. The elevator lights dimmed. The creatures writhed, drawn toward the shaft like moths to flame. Elise exhaled, slipping into the dark void beyond the hatch. The last thing she saw was the pulse of their hunger, closing in. When Captain Kalik's rescue pod reached the skeleton of Coxworth Station the following dawn, all that remained was a single message on the observatory's comm beacon. "This is Dr. Elise Conrad." The playback began, her voice steady despite the static. "If you're hearing this, I have already gone beyond the rift to contain the breach. The fissure harbors intelligences older than the stars. They feed on our fear, our very essence. I pray this log serves as warning. Do not awaken the lost ones." The message ended. The observatory lay silent. In the growing light of Helion Prime's twin suns, the chasm glowed faintly, a blinking pulse slowly subsiding. For now, the children of the rift remained trapped beneath the crust, their hunger unfulfilled. But as the rescue team cleared debris and assessed the damage, no one noticed a fine ribbon of smoke slithering upward from the fissure, a single silver modal thread escaping into thin air. It curled toward the horizon, a silent promise of things yet to come. And somewhere, deep beneath Helion Prime, the lost ones whispered each other in voices that trembled with ancient delight. "She has come." Their laughter echoed through endless caverns, hungry for the world above. The rescue pod's ramps clanked against a fractured platform as Captain Renzo Kalik led his small team across the debris-strewn expanse toward the yawning crater. Dust motes danced in the twin sun's harsh glare, and every shadow seemed to tremble with unspoken menace. The throbbing glow at the fissure's lip had faded to an almost imperceptible pulse, as if whatever lay beneath had momentarily quelled its appetite. Kalik approached the edge cautiously, scanning the abyss with a handheld scanner. "Radiation levels are spiking," he reported, voice clipped. "Magnetic anomalies off the charts. Whatever she did down there, it's still active." Lieutenant Mara Een knelt to examine a scorched fragment of railing. "Look at this scorch pattern. Reminds me of micro-singularity tests on Triton Station. Only, this is organic." She shivered. but there's no residue, no particulate. It's as if the heat was alive, then vanished entirely. Kalik swallowed. Conrad's message said they feed on fear and life force. If so, maybe the core breached all their need to consume, but didn't stop them. Ian turned, eyes narrowing. We need to seal it. Permanent containment. The station stabilization grid could be rerouted to the reactor backup, but we have no engineer to guide us. Cogsworth's systems are offline. Healed by adrenaline, Kalik peered into the gloom. We'll need to descend. Full hazard suits. They crossed to the elevator shaft. The emergency lift groaned as they pried open the hatch. Steam hissed through fractured conduits. The corridor beyond was half-flooded, cables dangling like broken ligaments. Kalik activated his suit lights. A lurid silver sheen coated the walls, pulsing in time with the fissure's glow. Life signs. Ian asked. Her scanner chirped. Nothing, Kalik replied, voice tight. But readings, I don't even know how to classify this. Every step echoed. An oppressive silence enveloped them, broken only by the hiss of their breathing and distant groans of settling rock. In what had once been a control alcove, the console lay shattered. Its screen cracked, circuits exposed. Strange etchings, like flowing script of molten metal, marred the panel. Ian knelt, tracing one symbol with a gloved finger. These are the same patterns Elise described in the Dorval logs. Coordinates. Ritual diagrams. Kalik frowned. You think she tried to communicate? Or bind them? Both. Ian whispered. I don't know. A rumble shook the station. Dust cascaded from the ceiling. Kalik grabbed a handhold. We need to move, now. They retreated toward the shaft. But at the mouth of the tunnel, Kalik halted. Look. At his feet lay a thin ribbon of silvery smoke, coalescing into a narrow finger mist that writhed across the deck plates. Subtle modal hairs quivered along its edge, sensing the rescuer's approach. Ian fired a warning shot, ionized gel that flared briefly before snapping out. The mist recoiled, then vanished into a vent shaft. Kalik's jaw clenched. One got loose. Ian exhaled. Great. Just one. He shook his head. Doesn't matter. If it finds the grid conduits, it could worm through the entire station. Better if we finish what Elise started. They rode the elevator down to the reactor level. The tremors had compromised the safety bulkheads. Alarm klaxons wailed in rhythmic blasts. The reactor chamber lay ahead. Its door buckled. Kalik keyed his override and shoved it open. Inside, the reactor's core glowed with telltale cobalt blue, a ring of containment coils humming with raw energy. The emergency manual was taped to the wall. To initiate sacrificial collapse, breach safety protocols, redirect all power to containment grids, engage core implosion sequence. Elise must have memorized it. Ian began rerouting cables, her hands working with mechanical precision. Kalik monitored two-way comms, his eyes flicking to the access tunnel. Pod ETA in 10 minutes. We got to buy time. A high-pitched whine pierced the chamber, the sound of metal flexing. The reactor lights flickered. Ian looked up from the tangle of conduits, face grim. It's coming. Down the corridor, the silver mist seeped in, pooling like liquid mercury. It formed into shape of a tall, elongated humanoid, limbs folding at impossible angles. Its molten eyes burned with hungry curiosity. Kalik leveled his sidearm. Hold it. The creature tilted its head, and the lights dimmed as if it drained the very photons. Kalik fired. The projectile disintegrated in midair. The creature advanced, sliding across the floor without a sound. Ian slammed the last cable into the power terminal. It's done. Core collapse in 30 seconds once I engage. Kalik aimed. Keep it busy. With a guttural click, the creature raised a slender arm. The coils around the reactor glowed brighter, arcs of electricity dancing. Kalik realized with mounting dread that it was reverse-feeding the reactor, harvesting its energy rather than succumbing to it. He charged, tackling the creature as wires sparked around them. They crashed against the control console. The reactor's hum swelled into a banshee wail. Ian screamed, pressing 3 activation switches simultaneously. A cascade of alarm lights bathed the chamber in strobing crimson. Kalik's vision tunneled. The creature writhed under his grip, its form flickering. Its clicking grew frantic, echoing through the chamber like thousands of voices. "Run!" Kalik barked. Ian dodged a falling cable, sprinting toward the service hatch. Kalik shoved the creature aside and leapt after her as the core's implosion pulse began, drawing power inward with cataclysmic force. They tumbled through the hatch just before the reactor chamber door sealed with explosive force. A deafening roar filled the station, then an abrupt silence, like the world holding its breath. The ground itself trembled, then shuddered to stillness. The station's lights blinked back online, tentative and weak. Emergency power. Kalik and Ian lay sprawled in the maintenance corridor, gasping. Behind them, a concussive shockwave rattled the bulkheads. He forced himself up. Status. Ian tapped her scanner. No life signs in the reactor level. Residual anomalies dropping to baseline. She exhaled, relief washing over her. We did it. Kalik nodded slowly. Elise Conrad did it too. Probably paid the price. His gaze drifted to the fissure, now visible through a shattered observation porthole at the end of the corridor. It glowed faintly, but the light was static, almost resigned. They made their way back to the surface as Kalik keyed a transmission to the rescue pod. "This is Kalik. Containment successful. We've sealed the rift for now. Prepare to evacuate." Behind them, the crew assembled on the platform, eyes haunted. Kalik addressed them, voice steady. "Dr. Conrad's sacrifice kept the lost ones imprisoned. We honor her. Now we leave, this world sealed until further orders." As the pod lifted, Helion Prime receded beneath them. The fissure glinted one last time, before fading into invisibility. The twin moons cast their reddened glow across the scar plateau, as if offering a final benediction to the fallen. But somewhere, tucked into a crevice of the abyss, one silver eye remained open, watching, waiting. And as the rescue pod cleared the atmosphere, a slender ribbon of modal smoke drifted free, carried on high winds toward distant colonies, toward unsuspecting worlds. Dr. Elise Conrad's warning echoed in Kalik's thoughts. Do not awaken the lost ones. Yet even as the stars stretched infinite and silent around them, a single pulse of light flickered within the void, an ember of hunger refusing to die.